baptisms, speaking in tongues, medicine, and sport banned. Pay close attention as I will go into detail about a cult that murdered a child because they would not give her life-saving medicine because they don't believe in it. Buckle up and get ready for cult number 7, the Saints. Join me as I discuss the cult-like beliefs of group on trial over girl's death. A trial of 14 members of a small, close-knit religious group over the death of a young girl has shed light on its cult-like beliefs. 14 members of the Australian cult the Saints arrested for murder of 8-year-old girl. Instead of taking life-saving measures, they elected to pray over her for 2 days instead. They did this because they believed she would be resurrected. The leader encouraged her parents to rely on prayer over life-saving insulin. The cult doesn't believe in medicine and refused to give her the life-saving insulin she needed as a diabetic, an issue that she has previously been hospitalized over. They prayed over her for 2 days in belief that she would rise from the dead. What else do we know about this group? Inside the group known as the Saints, everything was geared towards worshiping the Lord. They would meet once or twice a week, singing songs of praise and sharing a meal before being led by scripture from their leader, the messenger from God, Brendan Luke Stevens. Church and Easter were not celebrated. School was only seen as a tool to recruit more believers, and interactions with outsiders not members of the church were discouraged. Most importantly, the use of medicine and medical treatment was specifically shunned. These are just a snapshot of some of the shadowy practices of the Toowoomba-based home church group that have been laid bare in a Supreme Court trial of its 14 members who are accused of causing the death of 8-year-old Elizabeth Struhs in early 2022. The Saints is a religious group in Queensland, Australia, known for its strict and controlling practices. They consider themselves pagans, Christians. This group came into the spotlight after the tragic death of 8-year-old Elizabeth Struhs. Elizabeth's parents, Carrie and Jason Struhs, along with other members of the group, allegedly withheld her diabetes medication, resulting in her death. Instead of seeking medical help, they reportedly gathered to pray over her, believing that faith alone would heal her. Former members have described the group as a fear-driven religious cult with a belief system that includes speaking in tongues and strict submission to religious leaders. These leaders allegedly exert significant control over members' lives, including their relationships and personal freedoms. Queensland parents who are members of a strict religious group charged with murder following daughter's death. So who is the leader of this cult? Brendan Luke Stevens, the leader of the Saints. A controversial religious group in Australia is currently on trial for the murder of 8-year-old Elizabeth Struhs. Stevens, 62, and other members of the group, including Elizabeth's parents, are accused of withholding insulin from her, believing that prayer would heal her diabetes. Stevens and the group strictly adhere to the belief that medical treatment should be eschewed in favor of divine intervention. Stevens grew up in a religious household and began holding services at his family home. The Saints are known for their strict interpretation of the Bible, rejecting modern medicine, and imposing traditional gender roles. Stevens's leadership has led to numerous conflicts with members' families, particularly over the rejection of medical care and intolerance towards homosexuality. Stevens and other group members are currently representing themselves in court and have refused to enter pleas, maintaining that their actions were based on a reasonable belief in divine healing. He is facing charges as it is alleged that he was encouraging her parents to rely on prayer over life-saving insulin. The Crown has argued the girl died after her father, Jason Richard Struhs, 52, mother Carrie Elizabeth Struhs, 49, and 12 other members of the Saints withheld her insulin medication over several days, in line with their fringe beliefs. Elizabeth became more and more unwell until she died between January 6th to 7th that year. It is further alleged the group prayed for God to heal the girl instead of seeking medical attention in the days she declined. The Saints are from Queensland, Australia, and they adhere to a set of beliefs centered around strict Christian doctrines. Key aspects of their beliefs include: Number 1, exclusive salvation. They consider themselves the only true Christians, primarily because they believe in and practice speaking in tongues, which they view as a sign of genuine faith. Number 2, faith healing. The group strongly emphasizes divine healing over medical intervention, leading to tragic consequences, such as in the case of Elizabeth Struhs, where medical care was withheld in favor of prayer. Number 3, strict hierarchical structure. Members are expected to submit fully to their religious leaders. This submission includes adhering to strict rules and practices dictated by the group's elders. Number 4, control over personal lives. The group exerts significant control over various aspects of members' lives, including who they can date and marry, ensuring these relationships stay within the group. Number 5, intense group practices. Regular and intense group activities such as prayer meetings and chanting sessions are a core part of their religious practices. These beliefs and practices create a highly controlled and isolated environment for the members, leading to significant psychological and social impacts, as noted by former members and cult experts. The arrests included Elizabeth's parents, Carrie and Jason Struhs, who were initially charged with murder, torture, and failure to provide necessities of life. Subsequently, 12 more members of the group were charged with murder, taking the total number of people charged in this case to 14. The criminal case against Brendan Luke Stevens, the leader of the Saints, and other members of the group is currently ongoing. They are on trial for the murder of 8-year-old Elizabeth Struhs. Stevens and Elizabeth's father, Jason Richard Struhs, face murder charges, while Elizabeth's mother and other members are charged with manslaughter. The trial is being held in the Brisbane Supreme Court, and the defendants have refused to enter pleas, claiming their actions were based on their religious beliefs in divine healing. The trial is expected to last several weeks. It is being held in the Brisbane Supreme Court and is expected to last 11 weeks. So far in the trial of Brendan Luke Stevens and other members of the Saints, prosecutors have presented evidence detailing the group's actions leading to Elizabeth Struhs' death. They described how Elizabeth's insulin was withheld due to the group's belief in divine healing. The court heard testimonies about the pressure placed on Elizabeth's father to abandon medical treatment and rely solely on prayer. The trial is ongoing, with more witnesses, including police and ambulance officers, expected to testify in the coming weeks. Elizabeth was found dead at the Struhs family's Rangeville home, near Toowoomba, on January 7, 2022. Mr. Stevens and Jason Struhs are both charged with Elizabeth's murder. Initially, 12 other people, including Mrs. Struhs and Elizabeth's elder brother, Zachary Allen Struhs, were also charged with murder before the Crown downgraded their charges to manslaughter. When the matter was listed for trial review, Mr. Stevens, who still faces a murder charge, told the court he found it hard to believe people can be kept in jail on remand without sufficient evidence to prove murder. We didn't ask to be put in prison. Why would we ask to be get back out of prison? Mr. Stevens said via video link on Thursday. Why were we put in if it was so free for us to ask to get out? Isn't that just a little counterintuitive and contrary to justice? Why were we all charged with murder and locked up, and then 6 months later they downgrade us? It's amazing, isn't it, that police can say that you're all charged with murder to make sure you're locked up, but then say, we have no evidence, which is why when we look at it, we'll take away the murder charge and downgrade it to manslaughter. Which means there's corruption in the first place with the charge and such events, there being no evidence to support it. Justice Martin Burns, who will preside over the judge-only trial, told the 14 co-accused they had the right to apply for bail. There is a solution to all of this too. And I don't want to sound patronizing, but that's where you could apply for bail and you wouldn't have any of these restrictions, he said. None of the 14 co-accused. has ever made an application for bail before the Supreme Court, which is the only legal avenue to do so when charged with murder in Queensland. Those now facing manslaughter also include Mr. Stevens' wife, Loretta Mary Stevens, and their 6 adult children, Acacia Marie Stevens, Therese Maria Stevens, Sebastian James Stevens, Andrea Louise Stevens, Camelia Claire Stevens, and Alexander Francis Stevens, Samantha Emily Schoenfish, and another woman, Kada Courtney Martin, are also charged with manslaughter. Make sure you follow us on all of our social media, as I will be updating y'all on the status of the trial.